Welcome everyone. Welcome again to another week that we're having here. This time we're making it special. We've got Richelle from Keeping talking about PTSD, and it's a very interesting topic. This time we've had a chance to speak to Richelle about it. Something else comes to mind, and there's so many different things that we've managed to talk to her about, and it gets much more interesting as she talks more about her business at the same time. So, PTSD is post-traumatic
stress disorder.
There you go. Stress. I was waiting for someone to finish it for me. So that's what we're talking about today, and it's top as usual. So let's kick it off, Andrew.
So yes, PTSD. I think since we've been speaking with Richelle, it's amazing that so much that we've learned or we're still learning about PTSD, because it just really hasn't been something that I've been around or close to people with it, or maybe there are people that close to me that have it, but I just don't know. And yeah, going along the way, it's usually I've thought PTSD was always about. You see with army people, veterans,
war veterans,
servicemen and women, war veterans, and that's what PTSD was all about. Maybe because that's what the ads we've seen, or what's been, what we've seen on TV, or
movies.
It is. But
lots of movies about it, talking about all things that happen to people, and it still happens, right? So.
Yeah, so I guess that's why, to Richelle, there's actually much more to it. And Richelle, what is PTSD?
So apart from being post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD can happen anytime, anywhere, and it can bring on an array of change in your life. So people can go from having everything smoothly to then not being smoothly, because we're trying to understand the process of what's happening to them, and sometimes even why it's happening.
And so, and can you tell us a bit? What's your story with living with PTSD? Give us a bit of a background, how it's come around about.
So, no, that's fine. So my story is, so I'm a cancer survivor. And I developed PTSD from that because I would say the triggers of things that I weren't quite understanding as to why they were happening. And so that's my side of story. And then I also had a really bad sports accident, injury for say, and then I was finding that I wasn't able to attend certain places or be around certain things because it just brought back to that trigger point.
So is it something that you get diagnosed with?
Yes. So it's generally done through like a doctor that is an expert in a field of brain trauma or a traumatic event for say.
Yeah. So this is the thing that has just opened up, that it's everywhere and in everything. But how can we are there signs that we can tell to help people, or how do we go about noticing if someone's got PTSD, or do we not know?
You generally can't see it. You can't. It's not something visible. It's not something that you can just kind of like point out and notice it out of people. You won't ever see someone's PTSD. You might see a friend maybe declining an invitation to go somewhere, or not being comfortable being so involved in something. For example, my bad sporting injury was from soccer. So I actually stopped enjoying being around soccer. I didn't want to kick a ball around. Something's happening on my computer, so sorry. And so I developed that kind of sense with my PTSD already from my cancer. With my cancer, it was more or less me wanting to not go back into the hospital that treated me, not wanting to be in the waiting room, which then was bringing back memories, and just having that constant trauma, and then pain. So people generally can't see people's pain, and everyone's different too. So, you know, it's not something that you can look at someone and see.
So what is, I guess, keeping me, keeping you?
Mm-hmm.
How have you been going? Is that that's the catchphrase? Because that's, you know, how did that come about?
What have you been up to?
What have you been up to?
What have you been up to? That's what it's all about.
So I started the Keeping Me, Keeping You, then I think maybe within a couple of months I developed the what have you been up to, because I really got sick of people asking me, are you okay? You're looking down. And I'm just like, oh, please don't say that to me, because closed off answer questions, yes, no. I'm just like, no, that's not how I interact with people. And the way to really interact with someone is asking them a very open, broad question where you can really watch their body language and see how they're going to respond and if they're going to stick around or not. Because, you know, generally you can walk past someone in the street and say, yeah, g'day, and they just keep going. Same with like, are you okay? They'll be like, yes, no, and they'll just keep going. Or you'll just tell them, oh, you look down today, or you look like you must be sick or something. You can just like, yeah, no, this isn't the conversation I want to be, you know, having. I want the more open conversation. So what have you been up to kind of like led to the more open conversation, because you can really talk more or less than feeling like you're being invaded.
So it's gives you a more open answer to then follow on with those, and work out how have they been going.
And really connect with someone on a deeper level, rather than feeling like that you're being interrogated.
So what makes people feel what makes people feel like they need to retract, or feel like they don't want to be included into activities, or are these anxieties or these things that's are these fears inside what could eventuate? Are they thinking about things that could happen or something that hasn't happened?
So each person's PTSD is individual to them and their triggers. So it could bring up an assortment of triggers that they might feel not comfortable around. Their anxiety might be triggered, or something really, really deep and personal that they haven't been able to explore further might be triggered. For example, how I stated earlier, me not being able to go into the front doors of the hospital that used to treat me, because I was having that trauma, for say, of me receiving my treatment, that you really have to work on and really have to understand and explore what might be going on. Or, for example, someone who feels comfortable in their own space. So someone might be feeling comfortable being at a group event with people who they know and trust, but if they have to step out of some kind of a boundary that they don't feel comfortable in, or go somewhere by themselves, I always call it the closed doors. If you ever go into like a place that has closed doors, closed windows, and it's very dark, painted, I tend to want to go in those places, because it's reminding me of certain doors of where I used to have to walk into.
Yep.
So it could just be that simple little thing, or even walking through like a stream of people to get from point A to point B. Generally, I'll just like walk around or wait for like something to open up, or have someone go in front of me, because it's that feeling of like a closed off area.
So just how do we make people feel much more secure and feel like they is this something that we need to talk about more? Do we build more awareness around it? Because at the moment, what I'm getting, if I understand correctly, it's that because they don't feel safe, they tend to think of different things, or some other things might stop them from doing what they would like to do, but are stepping out of that situation just to feel safe, because that from what I gather, that the safety part is for them for them to feel safe. They sort of remove themselves. It's the easiest way to sort of feel safe from that situation, or what's playing in their minds. Is that correct?
It really it really depends on where they are on their level of feeling somewhat like themselves, but not quite 100%. So you could go through many times trying to get a friend to go somewhere with you, but if you haven't been able to help them really feel comfortable, like take small little steps and really take them somewhere that they like to go, then generally you can't just pull a friend out of their house and take them to where you want to go, because they won't feel comfortable, they won't know the area, and the boundaries have already been broken. So it's not necessarily about pushing someone to get out, it's more or less about making them feel comfortable in where they are and at that time. So a lot of the times when you might have a friend that you kind of like wanting to support, but you're not too sure on how to support them, I do encourage journaling a lot, and just writing just like a brief and then like a debrief after, and just going and having coffee and just kind of to see like how they feel, if you're wanting to, you know, support your friend more, especially if you've known they've been through something, because every person is different and not everyone will come out for coffee, not everyone will feel okay in a crowded place. Some people just want to go to a park and sit down or go for a bushwalk, but they want that friend there to support them. And it's not necessarily always talking about what's happened, it's more or less talking about what's happening in that moment. So if you've gone for a bushwalk, you know, you talk about where you are, your surroundings, you're not necessarily talking about the trauma that's happened to them.
Yeah, this becomes really complex, because it really depends on what sort of trauma or what sort of what's happened as an experience to the person's very unique. So is there any general tips you could provide other people listening, or other people looking to see this video in the future, and what sort of tips could you give others on how to help someone through PTSD?
Oh, yeah. Every PTSD is different. It's more or less, it's kind of like finding out the questions that either you're not understanding about yourself on how to help a person, or
Yep.
you understanding the person a little bit better. So I think the biggest thing for me is it's journaling. If you need a journal, or your friend needs a journal, go to the art shop with them and buy them a journal. Start doing art classes with them. Start doing things where you're really enjoying using those senses, or over into bushwalking. Go bushwalking with them, more or less, that they feel comfortable in. But for me, it always comes down to journaling. It's my favorite thing. I always do some art, grab some paints. It's in itself, it's therapy, so it's art therapy. But do something that's like beneficial. So when you're doing journaling, you're writing the date, you're writing where you are, you're writing how you're feeling, and so on. Which I'd love to say more on, but that's something where it's like I really want people to reach out to me and kind of go through those steps that I've helped to develop. And something that I found that is a vital information compared for someone who is a lived experience, whereas a lot of people who sometimes don't feel so secure in sharing their lived experience, I can help share. Whereas sometimes if you go up to someone and you know they're going through stuff and you start hitting them with hard questions, they're just going to disappear from your life and they won't talk to you again. So it's really about knowing where the boundary is and knowing how to talk to that person without invading them.
Was there anything else?
Experience is such a big thing that you do like to share what you're going through with someone who's lived it, or gets an understanding of it. So keeping you, how can people reach out to you, Richelle?
Through any of the social medias, through you guys. Head on to my website. It's keeping you. It's should be there. My number is posted on my Instagram, on my Facey, LinkedIn, YouTube. Get in contact and find out just some. I think it's just more or less like steps where you kind of like you just take every day. You've got to walk up a set of steps, so you got to walk up a hill. So I'm like that person who's just helping you to walk up the steps.
Yes. So that's keepingyou.com.au. Is that correct?
I think so.
We'll jot that in. We'll jot that in. Put that into a lot of the messages, and we'll put it into the message. If anyone wants to get in touch with Richelle, you can get in touch with her through many different platforms at the same time. So through Facebook, it's all one word: keeping you.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to find it. Even if you search that on Google, you'll find you'll end up going to Richelle's website or one of her social media.
Or something.
Something will get to her, or just reach out to Andrew and myself, and just let us know if anyone has any questions. Just send us DMs, send us anything. We'll pass you on to Richelle, or even ask her if that's something that you're uncomfortable with. So please reach out, because that's all what we really want to do with what we're doing now. Is about talking about mental health, and would launch this discussion point about state of mind as part of that, talking about all these different mental health issues that have arisen, and we're only gaining more information about it because we're researching, we're actually talking to each other on the web, and since internet has blown up, you have all these different groups out there as well. But speak to someone that we know. Oh, this side. Anyway, I still get confused by that. So we'll cap this off and close this off to this week, and we'll have Richelle come back if you'd like to come back, and probably have a couple more people and have a bit bigger discussion on many different parts of mental health, because it's something that we really need to spread awareness about, and it's something that Andrew and I have been really passionate about, because we always see it through many different outlets. We've seen it through TikTok with many people out there and posting a lot of things of who they are, what they are. And if they're posting a lot, they're trying to, what I'm gathering is that they're trying to send out or somehow communicate to the people around them that there is something wrong with them. Not something wrong, but saying that they're just trying to communicate something that's possibly there or not there. So the best question to ask is, from Richelle, is what have you been up to? So just keep that in mind, keeping you. What have you been up to? And that's a great way to start a conversation. Thanks again, Richelle.
Thanks, Richelle. Thank you.
And we'll
Thanks,
cap
guys.
it now. See you all until next week. Bye.